The warrior was the undisputed king of World of Warcraft Classic on its re-release back in 2019. It was without a doubt the single best damage dealer in the game, whilst also being the best tank. And it wasn't as though they were just a little bit ahead either. The difference between what a warrior was capable of doing versus any other class was an absolute landslide. So in Season of Discovery, Blizzard have a careful job to do. They need to add to the warrior without once again just creating a beast which is unmatched in any area of content. And it's true that every single class has received some pretty sizable buffs which we already know of, but with how far ahead the warrior already was, I do wonder whether they will retain their #1 spot in the long run. Either way, we have runes to talk about to find this out, so let's make a start on the chest runes first. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Star Trek Fleet Command. Star Trek Fleet Command is a free-to-play game available on desktop and mobile that takes you deep into your own fantasy universe, where you take command of your starship and begin your own journey across the galaxy. A vast open world awaits players in the game, spanning from the Alpha to Omega quadrants, allowing for both exploration and discovery. Make your own decisions shape your experiences as you explore the galaxy with familiar faces such as Captain Kirk or Spock. Build your own fleet with iconic ships such as the USS Enterprise or the Klingon Bird of Prey, and join up with millions of other players around the world in missions to conquer or destroy. Star Trek Fleet Command is also celebrating its 5th anniversary and has tons of rewards on, including a unique code warp speed that new players can use to get 10 epic shards of Kirk. Simply sign in through your Scopely account under settings in-game and then access the promo codes tab on the left-hand side of the website to get hold of it. In addition to this, there are constant in-game competitions, updates and giveaways to be part of, so there really has never been a better time to get started in a brand new adventure. You can discover this and so much more by checking out Star Trek Fleet Command for free today via clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen. Many thanks to Star Trek Fleet Command for the sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW. Flagellation is the first one to mention. Gain a 25% bonus to physical damage for 12 seconds after having activated Blood Rage or Berserker Rage. Okay, so Warrior is still going to be the best DPS at 60 then, wrap it up, that's all we needed to know. Okay, for real though, we aren't going to be level 60 for some time. We'll start at level 25 in Season of Discovery, and at that level, we won't even have access to Berserker Rage. That's a level 32. We will have Blood Rage though. Either way, this lines up well with the DPS cooldowns that the warrior will already get later on down the line. Death Wish is 30 seconds for example, and you can back-to-back press Berserker Rage into Blood Rage for 24 seconds of uptime on this rune. So at level 25, I don't think this rune will be that interesting, but it will have great potential at the 40 bracket and beyond. Next is Blood Frenzy, a rune that's going to scale up your rage regeneration the more bleeds you have running, with each bleed tick granting 3 rage. Is Rend now a button that you want to press? I mean, maybe it is, but it doesn't scale with weapon damage or attack power, and it can't crit. And it most certainly doesn't proc overpower the way it does in Wrath of the Lich King. And once we're super late game with world buffs and weapon skill, that kind of solves your rage generation problems. There could be the spot somewhere around level 40 to 50 where this is playable, where you have Sweeping Strikes and Whirlwind, but outside of Deep Wounds, Warrior Bleeds just aren't that great. Maybe this is more tailored for a rune we're going to get later on though. Next we have Raging Blow, an instant strike for 100% weapon damage which can only be used whilst an Enrage effect is active. So we've already mentioned Blood Rage and Berserker Rage, and Enrage itself is a talent that's only in the Fury Treeing Classic, and you need to receive a crit in order for it to proc. However, there is a new rune that's going to give you access to a brand new Enrage effect that will be a lot more consistent, and to be honest will have to be taken alongside this rune for it to be viable. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and bring these up side by side so you can see how they work together. The leg rune I'm talking about is called Consumed by Rage. Enrages you and grants a 25% melee bonus for 12 seconds or 12 swings after you exceed 80 rage. So you're probably going to rage cap fairly often using this, but for a 25% melee damage buff, yeah, that is a pretty good trade-off. This should also have enough uptime to ensure that you can press Raging Blow off of cooldown too, giving the two runes a nice synergy between one another. Also at level 60 with world buffs, this is just a flat 25% damage buff for Fury warriors. Our final chest rune is Warbringer. Your charge, intercept and intervene abilities are now usable in combat, in any stance, and will remove movement impairing effects when activated. Now this is exciting for PvP enjoyers. Notice it says intervene too. Either that's just been left on the talent text from Wrath of the Lich King, or we're getting intervene at some point, because as far as we know, there is currently no intervene rune. This rune started as a talent from Wrath of the Lich King, but it's great for the exact same reasons in vanilla. Being able to freely charge regardless of stance and keeping your rage is a very nice buff. And as for PvP, I mean, do I have to say how good it is to be able to charge out of a Frost Nova? You know warriors are already going to love that. On to the leg runes now with Furious Thunder. It's just a great bit of quality of life for prot warriors once again. One of the big issues with protection in vanilla in general is that Thunderclap was only usable in battle stance, and it was a super important debuff to have active, and those moments when you needed to change stance to reapply it could cost you so much rage. But now you can clap away in defensive stance and get an even better debuff alongside it. Pretty simple change, but one that warrior tanks are going to be very happy about. The next leg rune is Frenzied Assault, so I guess the news here is that Blizzard are trying to push two-handed warrior DPS, and maybe not even just as arms. Even during vanilla, on the Horde side with Wind Fury, players were already experimenting with a two-handed Fury spec. It just never really could catch up with what dual-wield Fury was capable of. But a straight-up 20% attack speed buff is only 10% less than the Flurry talent in the Fury tree as a totally passive effect. You combine this with both factions getting Blessing of Kings and Wind Fury, and I think there is quite a bit of room for experimentation here. And now we have our glove runes. Victory Rush is the first one up. And this is the version you've probably been wondering where it is since the Burning Crusade when we first got this ability back. I think most of us will remember Victory Rush at some point throughout WoW's history has healed you. Turns out it didn't start doing that until Cataclysm, and the Kata version is essentially what we are getting here. This is just a leveling rune really, but since we know enemies in the open world are going to be doing extra damage, this should help warriors stay even. Next we have Endless Rage. Straight up generate 25% more rage from all damage you deal. This is going to be a great rune when warriors have a bit less gear and can't go from 0 to 100 rage every 2 melee swings. It will also be very useful when it comes to proccing Consumed by Rage, as it will ensure both the enrage effect is rolling, as well as the 25% physical damage buff. I was going to say this would be of interest to two-hand DPS warriors too, but they have another rune more tailored to them on the gloves, which is Quick Strike. This is an instant attack, which is more or less just a replacement for where Heroic Strike would have been for two-handed warrior DPS, as now you have another instant ability to press, and your next auto attack will generate rage instead of being used on Heroic Strike to spend it. I have to say this whole two-handed package is shaping up to be pretty interesting, though I still wonder if it can compete with dual-wield Fury in the long run. And I say that because Fury is getting single-minded Fury. The passive 10% physical damage is already good, but they get 10% movement speed on top of that. Movement speed on boots was already a strong consideration for warriors, just so if the target moved you could stick on top of it really easily and have zero downtime. And if you're dual wielding on DPS, this is just a no-brainer to pick up once you start getting into PvE content. Finally, we have Devastate. It's Sunder armor, but a lot better. It's Blizzard saying, okay warriors, we actually want you to be using a shield now, instead of this whole prot Fury thing you had from vanilla. And this version of Devastate is pretty insane. Sunder also deals 100% weapon damage, increased by 10% per application of Sunder. So prot warriors can spam a 150% weapon damage Sunder, and all of a sudden it looks as though even tanks will be doing decent damage this season. Also, real quick on the subject of warriors tanking, using shields and actually doing damage, there was a little something data mined about a Gladiator Stance shield passive. So Gladiator Stance stance, if you don't know, was a sword and board warrior DPS stance that was briefly available during the Warlords of Draenor expansion, before it was nerfed quite heavily in WoD and removed in Legion, and it's never been seen again. So it would be really hyped to see this return for Season of Discovery. And those are all of our warrior runes, so let's cover some thoughts on the warrior so far. The two-handed DPS build could very well be for arms, or it could be for Fury. It's going to have to be tested once realms go live to see which one beats out the other. But either way, this playstyle has received some serious support from Blizzard this season. I just hope that it can keep up with Fury. Speaking of Fury, once you are level 60, you just have a flat 35% damage buff and can activate a 25% damage buff for 12 seconds every so often. So yeah, I don't think Fury is going anywhere when it comes to finding themselves towards the top of the DPS meters. Time will tell on that though, because level 60 is still so far off. We're going to be starting the season at level 25, and at level 25, warriors are missing perhaps the most out of any of their kit, of any class in the game. They don't even have Berserker stance. So during the first part of the season, I don't see warriors putting up anywhere near the numbers that they usually do on the DPS meter. Protection seems good with a combination of perhaps Warbringer, Furious Thunder, and Devastate. They also have a decent amount of their toolkit by level 25, so I can see this being the warrior specialization, which is the best performer at the start of the season. Definitely watch out for warrior once we start hitting those later levels though. They are known to be a scaling machine, and we haven't even seen all the runes which we are getting. If you want to relive that endless rage ability spamming warrior dream at 60, I'm pretty sure you will still be able to find that familiar gameplay. Who knows, maybe even earlier than expected. But as for whether you'll still be so far ahead on the DPS, you know, after reading through some of these runes so far, maybe you just will be. But those are my thoughts on the warriors runes so far. What do you reckon about what this class has received at the moment? Happy with it? Or would you like to see a bit more? Let me know below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.